How do you hire someone to run your business? That's the dream, right? We've created this business and now we're going to hire somebody else to run it for us. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way of doing this. So by the end of this episode, you'll know how to do it the right way. So in order to teach you how to hire somebody to run your business, we're going to talk about a few things. I'm going to share some techniques, we're going to talk about some mindset stuff, and I'm even going to share some stories of successes and failures that I've had so that you can learn from them and not make the same mistakes. Now pay attention to this first point that I'm going to share with you, okay? And even write this down. You are the person that creates the business, other people run it. Okay, so you're the one that gets to innovate and create the system. You get to create how the business runs, but you hire other people to run that. Okay, so having that distinction is really important, because if you try and hire somebody to create the business, it's not really going to go so well. In other episodes, we've talked about all the different hats that you wear as a business owner. And we've also talked about in other episodes how you can start to hire other people to take off some of those hats. Well, one hat that must remain on your head is you're the one that works on the business. You're the visionary, you're the creator. Now that doesn't actually mean that you have to be the CEO. You can hire somebody else to run the executive side of the business, to be the one to be in charge of meetings, but you kind of supervise them. You're the one that owns this company. So it really comes down to systems. I recommend that you create systems for everything possible, and that will enable you to hire people to run every one of those systems. If you create a system, basically you're creating a checklist or an outline or a recipe for them to follow, so then you can hire somebody else to follow those exact steps. And if there's something that you missed, you see it right off the bat and you can enhance that system. Now, I first learned this from the book E-Myth, E standing for entrepreneur. So there's a book called E-Myth Revisited. Michael Gerber is the author of that book. He's written other books and he kind of really likes the sound of his voice in the other books, but in the book, The E-Myth Revisited, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So you might have different objectives for wanting to hire somebody to run your business. I mean, maybe your objective is, you know what, eventually I just want to sell this business, and so I'm not going to be a part of it down the road, so I need to hire other people to kind of replace me and start to take over. And so that makes sense, but it's important to know what is the reason. Why are you doing this? Another reason might be, I'm putting in 60 hours a week and I just need to free up my schedule. I love what I do. I love this company. I want to be a part of it for the rest of my life, but I don't want to keep putting in 60 hours a week. I want to put in 20 to 40. So that's an important reason to hire other people. Maybe some weeks you don't want to work at all. You want to be able to go on vacation or go on a cruise or something like that. And think about somebody who's self-employed instead of a business owner, somebody like a dentist, where they're the ones that drill and fill the teeth. I mean, they're partly a business owner because they've got other team members, they've got a receptionist, they've got the dental hygienist, right? But if they go on vacation, if they go on a cruise for a week or two, then their whole dental practice is shut down for that week or two, right? But if you've got systems in place and you've hired people to run those systems, then you know that those systems are still running when you go on vacation. And another reason that you might want to hire somebody to run your business is if you're like me, you like to create, you like to innovate. So for me, I love coming up with an idea, and I even like figuring it out and piecing it together and being in the trenches doing it to figure that out, right? To really perfect it. But once I perfected it, and I love to put somebody else in that position to run it, so then I can innovate something else and I can continue to create. For you, that might mean I want to get this company polished and perfected, then I can start another company. So it's really important to understand why you want to hire somebody to run your business. And to say something a little bit differently, it's actually pretty easy to hire somebody to run your business if you've created the systems. The part that it's really hard to do or almost impossible to do is to hire somebody to innovate and to create your business. So in my experience and in my belief and perspective, you need to be the innovator and creator. And if you're going to get your business to a point where you could sell it or you could completely step away, you need to stick with the company long enough until you've systematized every little thing and you have taken tests and experiments and you've stepped away and seen, can it continue to run without me? Now, let me give you a simple example that shows a failure, okay? So this is actually before I started this company. I had a job. I was a telemarketer for an internet marketing company. but I was also an independent contractor for them doing article writing. They used article marketing as a part of their service. So with this side job that I had with the same company, they would send me a title, just like, here's the title of an article, you write the article, right? 400 or 500 words. And they would pay me $10 or $12 for that article, depending on that length. And I learned about hiring people, outsource people, and so I found a writer. So I would get the title, I would send that title to her, she would write the article, send it back to me, I'd pay her a couple of dollars, but in a different country that was favorable for her, and then I would turn it in and I would make the spread on that. So it was great, and it worked really, really well. She would write an article, send it to me, and the time that I would spend reviewing it was drastically less than if I had to write it myself. Instead of taking a whole hour to write the article, I might take 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to review it and tweak a couple things. So that was working great, but I kind of got lazy with it. I stopped reviewing. I just, it's going to be great. I'll just submit it. So I would get the title, send it over to her, grab the article that she wrote, and I would send it in. And I stopped looking at any of them. And I was, for a while, I was thinking, man, this is brilliant. I'm a genius. Well, part of it was probably genius, but the part that wasn't so genius is she started taking shortcuts too. She started just copying and pasting sentences and paragraphs from other resources on the internet, pasting them into one article and submitting it. And so I was submitting it to my company as if I had written it and being paid for that. So I read this article and I read a paragraph and I thought, man, for somebody whose first language is not English, this sounds really good. So I just copied either that sentence or that paragraph right into Google, and I found it. I found it somewhere else. And so I grabbed another part of that article and copied and pasted it into Google, and I found that as well. And so I did some digging. I found that the previous 50, it was a nice round number of 50 articles that had been submitted to me that I submitted to my company and I'd already been paid for. 50 of these articles were plagiarized. So, I mean, in total, I probably submitted 150. So it was just like the last third of them. But I was crushed. I was like, oh, this is terrible. What are they going to, if they discover this, I'm in big trouble. I went, just to finish the story, I went in the very next morning, went to the CEO of the company, and I explained what I had done in hiring somebody else to help me with this and what had happened and that I had submitted these 50. And he just laughed. He thought it was hilarious. He probably thought I was pretty genius for doing this, maybe funny, because he's an entrepreneur himself. But he wasn't the one in charge of this department. So he says, you've got to go talk to the supervisor over this position. So I did, and it was a kid younger than me that was very upset by what I had done. And he made me rewrite the articles, which made sense, but he wouldn't let me write any more articles, so I lost that position. So what I learned from that is the power of leverage and hiring people and creating systems to run. Like, it can work, but you can't cut corners. There's things that you got to do. There's systems that got to be in place. And in that case, I had no quality control system in place. There was nothing to prevent that from happening. So that's on me. That's my fault. All right, the next video that you are going to love is how to hire the right person every time. I've created a system. I've learned from that first experience. I know how to hire the right person every time. I know how to find them. I know how to communicate with them. I know how to interview them. If you watch this video, you too will know how to hire the right person every time.